few people there.
We already have enough people joining in.
Yeah, I think we have already 35 people there, Shruti. So let us start, Shruti. Yeah.
All right, a very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Shruti and I work with UNICEF Yuva team. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to the employer awareness session. As you all know, UNICEF Yuva has been putting in consistent effort to make more and more employers aware about apprenticeship ecosystem in the country. And this we are doing through our working group. This working group was convened in December 2021 with the idea of bringing all the players in the apprenticeship ecosystem together so that collectively we can create an agenda for apprenticeship and make it bigger and more prominent in the country, both for young people as well as for employers. So with this, I welcome you to the session. Please note that we have these sessions on monthly basis. So if you can inform other employers as well who would be interested in joining, it will be great. With this, I would like to welcome Mr. Jan Iben to continue with the presentation. Jan, over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Shruti, and also good afternoon to all. It's great to see a good number of people join these sessions that we have once a month, which do serve the purpose of raising awareness about apprenticeship and the opportunities it entails for employers, establishments, for the youth, of course, but for a wide arrangement of stakeholders. And it is very much a win-win kind of a situation that can be created by apprenticeship. So let's take a look at the Apprentices Act, which was already passed in 1961. And over the years, I've been able to get a little bit of a comparative perspective on apprenticeship. And when India passed the Apprentices Act, it was the second country only in the world. Only Switzerland back in the 1920s had been there before. And the act was in its intention hugely progressive to promote the welfare of the apprentices and the families, to provide the companies with skills, as well as to give India an international industrial and competitive advantage. However, it didn't quite catch on for especially one reason, namely that the act in its intention was geared very much to industrial apprenticeship, but it had not looked so much at the skilling needs of the small and the mid-sized companies. And this is where we see now today, decades after 1961, where the opportunity for future growth is. So the idea is learning by doing. Let the young people come into the company and to the shop floor and do learning by doing, practical training, combined with a period of theory training, which comes in basic training or is already done previous to the apprenticeship in the ITIs. There's a little bit of a statistic in the table on the right. Companies registered, companies actively engaging apprentices, candidates registered and apprentices engaged. And when I look at these, the registration figures, I always say, don't matter so much, because what really matters, the bottom line, is to have the number of active or live apprenticeships, live contracts, and that is reflected in candidates registered, 66 lakh that we have there, and companies actively engaging apprentices, 30,000 across India. Given the fact that India is a large country, it may not seem to be a whole lot, but when we look back, and we'll see that in one of the coming slides, back to 2018, 2017, 5-6 years ago, this has been quite a bit of an increase. And here we jump forward and do go to the lower left of this slide, where you can actually see that from year to year since 2018 onwards, the enrollment in apprenticeship has pretty much doubled. And most amazingly, I would say, also in the period of 2019 to 2021, those two financial years, which were COVID years. So while employment opportunities generally were on the decline and unemployment got higher, apprenticeship actually increased quite a bit. And we still need to do some research all stakeholders how this happened, but one of my guesses is that employers and establishments began to realize that establishment itself is a very, very good base for an employment relationship, which is a stable bond at the same time. So it makes employment more sustainable. The number of apprentices engaged, 11 lakh we've already seen on the previous one. Half of this is attributed to the past financial year, which has seen phenomenal growth. It is always good to look at where the growth occurs. Top 5 sectors are automotive, retail, IT, power, and electronics. These things change slightly from year to year. In the past, retail has been the strongest one, but now automotive has surpassed it. When we look at the top states, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Haryana, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, again, we have the industrial states that are very strong. Telangana, which we are focusing this session a little bit on, still has some room to grow upwards. Haryana and Uttar Pradesh have been coming in lately, whereas Maharashtra and Gujarat, Tamil Nadu were always very strong. That reflects, I think, the industrial growth of the National Capital Region. So that's near the capital. On the context, yes, let's go a little bit into history. Time-honored mode of transferring knowledge from one generation to the next. Apprenticeship, very strong already in the high Middle Ages. I would even say that it was the most important economic and social institution up to the time in Europe we reached the Renaissance. It was where it was an extended family. The young people lived in the house of the master. The industries, the sectors transferred the knowledge from one generation to the next and created the basis for their competitiveness. Quite unfortunately, and it had an impact on India consequently, is that when industrialization came, apprenticeship was neglected in England and consequently then, of course, also in India, whereas in the continental Europe, apprenticeship even grew to become, in my own country, Germany, now it is 2/3 of an age cohort every year will go into apprenticeship, and it is the normal thing to do. Apprenticeship being preferred by vast majority of young people and their families over going into an academic career. So 2018 came, 2019, COVID, we had this growth. Employers are more ready to take up apprenticeship in India than before. It has clearly to do with some of the reforms that were introduced by the government post-2016. This has to do with TPAs, it has to do with optional trades, and the following speakers will get into some of the details because all this made apprenticeship much more flexible than it used to be before. For the employers, it is a viable sourcing strategy, and it will result in highly skilled, self-trained, committed teams and low staff turnover, and the youth has the benefit of earn as they learn because they already earn stipends. Now, of course, not all is good. The social prestige of apprenticeship is still comparatively low, also compared to other countries. A lot of work needs to be done on this, and this is also why the engagement of UNICEF and UVA to support apprenticeship is really important. We can go to the next slide because what remains to be done is to take a look at this is a nice stakeholder map that we have here. At the stakeholders, we just go around the semicircle from the left to the right, which means we begin with the government. And the ministry in charge here is the Ministry of Skills Development and Entrepreneurism, which works through NSDC, National Skills Development Corporation, for which I also worked until very recently. and the Regional Directorates of Skill Development and Entrepreneurism. Going down into the system, vertically, we have the Sector Skill Council, which are enormously important as they have a role to support industries and companies and employers in creating their own curricula and qualification as per their needs. And they also manage the system of assessment and certification. Third-party aggregators are specialized service providers that can help any company or industry in managing apprenticeship all the way across the life cycle, from the initial recruitment and mobilization of candidates to finally helping with their assessment, their certification, and placing them in permanent employment. Basic training providers are training partners that are approved by NSDC, National Skills Development Corporation, that take over the mandatory initial basic training. Nothing would work through the, if it wasn't for the industry bodies, Confederation of Indian Industry, NASSCOM. Next speaker, Girish, represents NASSCOM. Without their support, nothing would happen. Employers, establishments, in the language of apprenticeship, are, of course, the most important stakeholder because they have to provide the opportunities. Institutions, colleges are important because a big growth pattern we see in the area of degree apprenticeship and the combination of apprenticeship with academic study. Then there are the supporting international and non-governmental organizations. And finally, the candidates, the apprentices, and behind them, the families and their communities. This is pretty much a comprehensive map here. All these are important. We think the most important one, obviously, are the employers themselves, the industries, and the candidates and apprentices. Previous to the session that we're having today, UNICEF did a little survey with the candidates who had registered and asked them how aware they are of the apprenticeship melas that are now taking place since June, once a month, actually every second Monday of every month. These are a very good opportunity for employers or their HR representatives to go into the melas, usually hosted by ITIs, to get to know and interact with the candidates for apprenticeship themselves and to convince themselves about their skills and talents. These would hopefully then result in contracts quite immediately. If awareness of apprenticeship needs to be raised, then hopefully this new instrument, this new campaign of having these melas, which have also been ennobled by now being called PM National Apprenticeship Mela, would be a very good opportunity to get into face-to-face and physical contact with potential apprentices. Please look at the link that you see at the bottom. And I think I'm pretty much through my part here for the introduction and the context setting. So I'll give back to Satya, who is our host, or Shruti.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jan, for setting the context and talking about the introduction about apprenticeship and different, especially this new initiative called PM National Apprenticeship Mela, which has been started 2 months back. And I'm sure our participants will be definitely take more participation in upcoming months. And now I request Mr. Girish Kulkarni.
I'll turn the camera off, but I'll stay here for question and answers later on, if that's okay. Huh?
Sure, Jan. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Good.
I request Mr. Girish Kulkarni, who is from NASSCOM and who heads the Apprenticeship Initiative for IT and ITA Sector Skill Council, to take the next part of the session about different benefits of the employers for engaging apprentices and also different schemes about the policies and guidelines. So yeah, Girish, welcome to the session. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Satya. Thank you very much. Am I audible there?
Yes, very much.
Great. So thanks to the technology also, which is working. So first of all, good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. This is Girish Kulkarni here from ITS Sector Skill Council, NASSCOM. And I've been asked to take you through this portion of how apprenticeship is beneficial for the industry. Okay. So just a little bit, my experience also as Jan, my previous speaker, my friend and previous speaker was talking about, the last point what he made was that apprenticeship still needs to be more aspirational rather than the way it is being looked down upon as a last resort for anybody. If he doesn't get employed anywhere, then they go to the apprenticeship route. But unfortunately, my experience has been something different, because when I started, maybe almost about 35 years ago, as an fresh engineer coming out of the college, working with an automotive industry, I was kind of taught by apprentices who were experts on the assembly line. I mean, so that is the kind of skill, because these guys, apprentices, are the ones who have a practical skill of doing a job. And hence, they, in a given scenario, compared to a fresher with an apprentice always holds an upper hand. Now, over a period of time, what has happened is that, coming back to the current scenario here as to what we are discussing, why apprenticeship is a kind of a non-starter, or I would say, as we were seeing in the previous graphs also, that awareness is less, and even people do not know about it, and so on and so forth, is only because though it is a law since 1961, the benefit that it gives to the not really known to many of the industries, and also many industries did not even know that this is a legal requirement, the law of the land, and has to be complied with. So, coming from that perspective, to start with, what benefits it gives is that here is an opportunity in any organization. People would definitely hire freshers and train them and put them into value creation processes. That exactly is what apprenticeship is all about. In every organization, you hire freshers, train them, and then put them onto the job. So my suggestion to all the organizations who are participating here is that look at the process of fresher hiring in your organization, and you can easily align that with this apprenticeship program. And for doing this, you can get incentivized by the government. The incentive that is coming from the government, or we will touch upon that, already it is written out here on the left side, is that is a incentive which is non-taxable, which straightway goes to the profit after tax. That is one benefit at the outset. Secondly, when you are engaging apprentices, they are trainees, they are not employees of an organization, and hence an organization need not have to pay any ESI or EPF contribution. So that is another financial benefit which is there, which an organization can always avail. One more tacit important aspect I would like to highlight here is that after completion of this apprenticeship program, there is no compulsion on any organization to hire even one single apprentice on their permanent job roles. That is, your obligation as an organization is fulfilled once you engage apprentices and complete their training and complete the assessment and certification. You are done. But however, most of the companies having invested in these trainees and apprentices for a long duration of time, almost 6 months to 1 year, and so they find them more suitable, and whoever is found suitable, they hire them on their permanent roles. So here, it is an entry process of engaging with prospective employees as apprentices and evaluating them about the entire period of apprenticeship. Then you are selecting only those apprentices who are successfully performing as your permanent employees, if your business allows that. So, here, and you get 1 year of window, minimum 6 months to 1 year of window to select the best candidate, best of the best candidates. So my suggestion here is that it is always a win-win for the organizations which by engaging apprentices without changing any of your initial fresher hiring processes, you have an opportunity to recruit your fresher hires through apprenticeship route. So now coming to, so my point here is that it strongly makes a business case for every organization, because there is no loss of revenue. In fact, on the contrary, the engaging apprentices is the most valuable and profitable proposition. So I would recommend the organization to think about this very, very seriously. Now, let us not bogged down by the this is compliance and government laws and filing of papers and things like that. All that has been made very, very simple. So it is all online on the portal. But if you start aligning your initial fresher hiring process and training with apprenticeship process, legal compliance becomes almost automatic by default, so that you need not be worried at all. And every Sector Skill Council SSC is always there to support you and help you, aided by NSDC as well. So in my last 4 years of experience of implementing apprenticeship, up till now, we have onboarded more than 2,500 companies on NAPS portal for apprenticeship, and have engaged more than 1 lakh apprentices in the last 4 years cumulatively. And last year, as Nayan was saying, it was phenomenal. We almost crossed in one financial year for IT/ITS sector, we crossed almost about 50 apprenticeship registration. So it is picking up because it is making business sense, right? So now coming to other benefits, like it is entry-level workforce pipeline that it can be built, and compliance becomes almost by default. It gets happened in enhancing employability for youth. Of course, that is a overarching government's objective, wherein as we stand here today, almost 60% of our population is in the working age group. So we as a country need to, cash on this demographic dividend. And that is what is the national objective. And obviously, by engaging apprentices in our organization without compromising anything, business imperatives, if we are doing this, we are contributing towards naturally to the national objective also. The last thing I want to say on this slide is that, if there are organizations which are engaging, as we say, there is a minimum threshold of 2.5% of your total headcount which need to be engaged as apprentices in your organization. The maximum cap is 15%. Anything that this is above 2.5% up to 15%, if an organization is engaging apprentices and if that organization is contributing towards CSR, then this additional of above 2.5 to 15%, the whole of this cost of engaging apprentices can be expensed out of your CSR funds. So guess what? Here you have an opportunity to train your own future resources using your own CSR funds. What else one can ask for? So, ladies and gentlemen, in the nutshell, net, apprenticeship is the most valuable and profitable proposition for engaging freshers at the entry level in every organization. Any organization which is above 30 people can do that. So I would strongly recommend this. Can we go to the next slide, Satya? Yeah. So depending on which situation to situation, this is the structure of authorities what we have in India. At the helm of the affairs is Central Apprenticeship Council, and which kind of statutory body which really regulates the apprenticeship across India since 1961. And in our country, at the central level also, there are two ministries: Ministry of Education, which earlier used to be called as the Ministry of Human Resource and Development, and also since 2014, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship also, which came into existence, is also running apprenticeship. Under Ministry of Education, we have a scheme called NATS, which is run by Board of Apprenticeship Training, and the Board of Practical Training. There are 4 of them across the country. And under MSDE, we have DGT, Directorate General of Training, and NSDC, National Skill Development Corporation. And under NSDC, we run, SSCs are governed by them, and we help them run optional trades, both with the government incentive and without government incentive. Another feature here is about the state governments. State apprenticeship advisors also are helping implement apprenticeship in their respective states. If an organization is only registered in only one single state, then their governance and all is managed by the state apprenticeship advisors. And also, skill development missions also come into the picture. SSDMs also come into the picture there. But if an organization is having their offices in more than 4 states, then they are centrally governed by the MSDE under NSDC. Skill SSCs also contribute there. But all said and done, all these agencies work hand in hand, and that is the example what Pradhan Mantri Mela, Apprenticeship Mela that is happening since last couple of months, every Monday, second Monday of every month that is happening. So all these agencies are coming together and creating more awareness and also bridging the gap between the aspirants of apprenticeship and also the industry who want to engage more apprentices. That is really happening there. So it is only for the ease of governance structure that this structure is put in place, but at any point of time, you can get any aspirant of either the apprentice or the organization can get in touch with any of these. Of course, at the end, we will share the contact details also, so that you will be properly guided to engage apprentices in the right manner under the right authorities, governing bodies, and so on and so forth. So, it is, and also in both, either it is Ministry of Education or Ministry of Skill Development or Entrepreneurship or under the state government, everywhere, it is a good news to all of you that everywhere apprenticeship is, implemented online. There is almost zero paperwork, right up to the incentives hitting your bank account through online money transfers. So, absolutely no paperwork, almost zero, I would say. But in some cases, some documentation has to be there, uploading of some documents and all has to happen at the initial level. But once that is all done, everything is online. And I'm very happy to say that, almost to the tune of 7 crores has been already realized by many of our member companies who have signed up for apprenticeship. They are running apprenticeship, and timely payment is happening. In the last 1.5 years, almost 7 crores only in IT sector has been realized by our companies who are engaging apprentices. So next slide, Satya, please. So these are a bit more details as to what are the requirements, who all are, what are all the eligible different schemes. So you've got these categories here, category 1, 2, and 3. Of course, one is the designated trades under MSDE, and board also has all the designated trades only. But under NSDC, we have this optional trades which are which are actually from since 2016 when this NAPs came into existence. They are catering to all the non-engineering graduates also, like BAs, BScs, and BComs. Under DGT, ITI passed can be engaged as apprentices, and under NSDC, under NAPs, even engineering graduates, other graduates, like BAs, BScs, BComs, and 10th pass out, 5th pass out, ITIs, 12th, vocational training past people, all can be engaged as apprentices. The advantage here is that the durations, flexibility, which ranges from 6 months to 36 months, and there are some courses which are for 9 months, 12 months, and so on and so forth. So that flexibility is available for the employers who want to engage apprentices aligning with their business. And similarly, for the board, of course, my colleague, I think Paul is there, and he will be talking more about that as to how apprentices can be engaged under NATS. But it is for graduate engineers, diplomas, and even now they have started taking BS, BScs, also engaging them as apprentices. So, there are these incentives, there are these assessment bodies who would be assigned to conduct these assessments under certain categories. Say, for example, like for assessments under category 2 under NAPS optional trades, it is SSC and establishment who would be running it. And running an assessment, and you would see that under board, there is, it's kind of a self-assessment that the organization conducts there. But running an assessment and certifying them actually does 2 things. One, it ensures quality to the organization who are running the apprenticeship so that they are getting the right quality of the people after successfully completing it. And secondly, the assessment certificate becomes a kind of a testimony to the candidate also, that even if they want to pursue jobs outside, other jobs, it would become a testimony to them as their experience, and say that, okay, I did this apprenticeship training and this is my certificate. Certificate is, NSDC and MSD logos would be there, and ASCOM logo would be there. So it carries a lot of brand value and also the market value there. So, and also there is this minimum stipend that need to be paid, which is already, I think it's all self-explanatory there. But there is a minimum for graduates as per the law. 9,000 rupees is what need to be paid as stipend. That is only the lower limit. To the maximum, you can pay anything. There is no cap out there. And just yesterday, we were having a discussion. There are companies who are paying almost 3 times this for entry-level apprentices. So there is no limit out there. But however, depending on your educational qualification for graduates, diplomas, ITIs, and vocational course passed candidates, 12th pass, 7th pass, there is this band of 9,000, 8,000, 7,000, 6,000, and 5,000. That is what is the minimum stipend that need to be paid. And from the incentive perspective, from DGT and under MSDE, you would have either 25% of the stipend or maximum to the tune of 1,500 rupees is what is paid as incentive. And whereas under both, it is 50% of the minimum stipend for graduates. That is what is paid, and also 50% of the stipend of diploma. That is what is paid as an incentive. So, these are the kind of, a kind of a menu list, I would say, depending on what suits your business best. You can make a choice and you can go ahead. And there typically many times the question is asked, if I'm registered on both and NATS I'm registered, and should I be registering under NAPS also, whether the number of candidates engaged under NAPS would be counted against my minimum requirement of 2.5%. The answer is yes. You can engage apprentices either DGT designated training or under MAPS or under NATS. When it comes to calculating the total number of your compliance threshold, the total number of apprentices you are engaging in all these 3 schemes will be totaled, and then only that is how it will. But the law says that any given point of time in the organization, you should be having minimum 2.5% of your total headcount as your apprentices. So this is, a kind of how apprenticeship evolved in our country. 61, fortunately, that happens to be my year of birth also. So apprenticeship was born in our country and it became an act. And then, over amendments. And initially in 1961, since our country was more onto manufacturing our GDP was more driven by manufacturing sector. So hence, apprenticeship and the curricula, the rules, the law, everything was centered around manufacturing sectors. But later on, off late, as you know, since the Y2K factor in 2000 and later earlier, even late 80s and all, how the IT sector and other sectors started booming. So that in 2014, there were major changes, and all other sectors also were also brought under the ambit of Apprenticeship Act. And after 2014, MSDE came into existence, and under that in 2016, MAPS came into existence. There were major changes made. I was very fortunate to be part of these changes that were made in 2019. We brought in, and that is the point when, at least for the basic training, online training was kind of accepted wherever that was possible. And there were changes into the age factors and also approvals for the second shift working and so on and so forth. But this is it is a continuously evolving evolution of improvement. And still, even after so many amendments and changes and improvements, even we are contemplating quite a few changes, and which are under discussion. I think in this parliament session, probably it would be tabled as well. Next, Satyaji. Yeah. So coming back to this, I think we already kind of touched upon this, but nevertheless, for the benefit of the audience who are there, eligibility wise, any organization, this is about the legal framework, right? And any organization which is having less than 3 as their number of employees are not eligible to engage apprentices. Any organization which is having 4, anywhere between 4 to 29, it is for them, it is not legally mandated, but they can, optional, it is optional for them, but they can avail it is of apprenticeship. But any organization which is having more than 30 people as their total headcount and or more, they need to legally and mandatorily engage apprentices to the tune of minimum 2.5% of their total headcount and maximum of 15%. So when they say total headcount, many times this question is asked, whether it is only my direct employees or indirect employees. This is for this purpose, to calculate 2.5%, always it is the sum of your direct and indirect employees, which is taken as an average of the last 1 year. So that is what it is. And from the apprentices perspective, age-wise, anybody who is more than 14 years or above is eligible to be engaged as an apprentice. Earlier, there was a confusion. 21 years was the age, and that also has been amended now. So all that doubt was cleared. So, and only in the industries where hazardous jobs are to be undertaken, for that it is a minimum age above. And minimum qualification is a 5th pass to be engaged as an apprentice under NAPS. That is what it is. So the contract here, now coming back to the right side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you've got listed out this, and contract obviously is signed between the candidate and the organization. Even if in some cases TPAs are facilitating or running the entire process, but for all the legal purposes and all, the contract should be and would be signed between the candidate and the organization who's engaging the apprentice. And regulations is, there are a host of all these regulations which are already both on NATS portal and NAPS portal, rules and all are available. But hence, I would recommend that you can visit this website to get more details. But there are guidelines to be followed if the person is working in second shift, overtime, and all that stuff. But my point here is that second shift work is possible, overtime is possible. There are some terms and conditions which need to be followed, right? And how the claims can be claimed, special requests, and so on and so forth. All those things can be, those are the next details once you start engaging apprentices, and all the SSCs would be there to support you and guide you suitably in that case. We talked about the stipend amount, which ranges between 5,000 to 9,000, which is minimum, maximum, depending on the educational qualification and at what level you are one is being engaged as an apprentice. But the maximum limit is sky is the limit if your organization can afford it. And training, as you say, apprenticeship comes in 2 blocks as it stands today. Basic training, which is classroom training, which can be to the period of maximum 3 months or 500 hours, whichever suits the organization. And also then comes the on-the-job training, which is real shop floor training on the work, supervised by the mentors and trainers and so on and so forth. See here, again, allow me a little bit of digress here. See, the apprenticeship, the whole principle and philosophy is that it is the responsibility of the established industry to train the fresh workforce that is coming into the job market. Exactly same as parents teach their little toddlers. They teach them A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. They take them through kindergarten. Even before going to the kindergarten, they train them, teach them at home, rhymes and all that stuff. It is that parental responsibility that an industry is expected to deliver towards the fresh workforce that is coming into the job market. That is the essence of apprenticeship. If you understand this, then legalities, everything will fall in place, right? And of course, I hate to talk about this penalty clause. And luckily that, earlier it was imprisonment for any defaulter, CEO would have been imprisoned. But the change that has happened is that every missed apprenticeship of month, there would be penalty of 500 rupees. And after 3 months, if that thing is not corrected, it would be 1,000 rupees per month for every apprenticeship opportunity. So, that is, I think, is the crux of it. And as I said, apprentice is a trainee. He is not a worker. So hence all the labor laws as it appears, it doesn't apply to apprentices, right? But however, we need to ensure as employers and good corporate citizens, we need to ensure the safety of these apprentices also who are getting trained under our organization. And hence we recommend group insurance policies to be taken for that. So that is how it works. And in many organizations, that is what is the policy. Now, this is just a workflow, I would say, a process, how the entire apprenticeship process works. So any organization, it would decide depending on their business line and technology and so on and so forth, in which sector they want to engage apprentices, from which sector they want to engage apprentices, what skills and minimum skill levels and all. All this is a preparatory work in terms of what QPs and NOSes and things like that, what they want to adopt or opt for, whether they want to do it on their own or they want to go with a TP training, TPAs, third-party aggregators, outsource it or training, and they want to play their own training partners and so on and so forth. That is an organizational decision. Once all that is done, you start mobilizing the candidates. And for an organization, again, I said this in the beginning also, that any of your selection process, you don't have to change. Say if in an organization you have minimum 60% of your qualifying degree, you need to have it. So be it. So that is allowed. So you can select candidates as per your requirement, as per your selection process. You may conduct interviews and so on and so forth. All those selected candidates, and we are talking only of freshers, all the selected candidates can be onboarded onto the portal as apprentices who would be engaged in your organization. That is also possible. And bulk uploading of these candidates from the back end also is possible. And then starts the apprenticeship process. A contract is signed between the candidate and the employer or the company online. And, then I don't have to read all through this. And then the training happens, basic training happens. You may use online training modules for basic training. Then the on-the-job training starts happening. And they, of course, please ensure that for the quality, if you want to achieve in terms of training these people, there will always be assigned a good mentor. I think that is what both me and Jan have been stressing in every occasion that we get, that a good trainer can do a much better job, and he really can do a good service by training these freshers achieve those skills what we want. Then stipend payment, as I said earlier, it's all through online, and reimbursement also happens online, and you can choose. You have a choice here whether the stipend can be made using the NSDC's payment gateway itself. Then if you use that, then claim process becomes very easy. You don't have to create more evidences, bank certificates, statements, and all are not necessary. But however, you have a choice. If you want to do payment to stipend, payment of stipend to candidates, or using your own payment processes, then there is another process that needs to be followed, which is a little bit cumbersome. So then practical assessment marks are uploaded. There is a standard format there. Then the basic training, when it is to complete the assessment, the SSCs would conduct the assessments. Then joint certificate is handed over to the candidates through the organizations. And I would rather suggest you make a big event of this, a certificate handing over in all your organizations. You would be very happy to come and be part of that activity. And then certificates are handed out, and these candidates, either if they are found suitable and the business requires, they can be engaged in an organization, or they can be let out in the job market. At least you as an organization have a satisfaction that you have trained them, made them more employable, you have skilled them, and then you are letting them into the job market. And also the candidates should be very happy and proud also that they did apprenticeship in your esteemed organization, and which enabled them to get a better job and better life. I think that was it from my side. Satya, over to you.
Thank you very much, Girish, for this detailed explanation about this apprenticeship, NAPs and all. Thank you very much, Girish. we will proceed to the next one. I think Paul is not available, so just let me quickly put it through. So as NAPS is the one scheme which is being led by Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So similar to that, we have National Apprenticeship Training Scheme, that is NATS, which is basically implemented by Ministry of Education. And all the rules and regulations are similar. The only thing is NATS allows only degree and diploma holders to be part of this program. Whereas in NAPS, we can have anybody 5th class pass onwards. So 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, ITI, 12th, graduate, everybody, engineering, non-engineering, everybody can be covered in NAPS. Whereas NATS is restricted only for graduates and diploma holders. So that's the only difference. Remaining all the processes are same. So there is the next step is about Apprentices Embedded Degree Program. It's a very good program. Today we supposed to have a representative from one of our third-party aggregators, but due to some emergency, he could not join. So I will run through it quickly for your perusal. So this Apprenticeship Embedded Degree Program is something which is primarily for the 12th path students, where they can engage with an establishment and they will be also enrolled into a university, right? So that will be paid for the period of 3 years. So it's a joint collaboration between an industry and the establishment, where the courses are designed or co-created between these two stakeholders, the industry and the university, and where Sector Skill Council also play a role for approving those courses and all. Okay, so here what happens, the students get enrolled into the university for that particular course, where he will be studying either on a Saturday and Sunday, and he will be working for 5 days in a company, right? And over a period of 3 years, he will be earning the stipends. And then after completion of 3 years, he will have 3 years of working experience in that organization. He will be earning a degree, right? And he will also have the stipends and all. So it's a beneficial program for both students as well as employers. Okay, so there are different even one is apprenticeship embedded degree program. Similarly, we have also Bachelor of Vocation BVOC run by several universities, where the basic requirement is 12th pass. So this is again a very good benefit for the employers as well as for the students. So the biggest advantage is for the employers, the retention, it will be higher because you will have a minimum commitment of 3 years, right? When the student is getting enrolled as a apprenticeship embedded degree program. So that's a very good mode of recruitment. Also, your hiring cost also be lower, right? And of course, over a period of time, let's say after 6 months or so, the productivity will start. The apprentice will start giving the output, and they can contribute for the revenue generation also. So this is how this program happens, right? So you have third-party aggregators who works with the industries, they work with the university and the Sector Skill Council to co-create the various programs. So this is something by Team Skill University. So they have in collaboration with NSDC, ESSLI, Logistics Skill Council, and Retailers Association Skill Council of India, and ASDC also. So they have some programs for electronics, automotive, retail, and logistics. We'll have some examples in the next slides. So this is one program called BBA Retail Operation, right? So here what happens, so this program is being run by Medhavi Skill University in collaboration with Trends, Reliance, and Pantaloons. So any of the participants, if they have some kind of engagement in detail, they can also look at this, how this program is being run and how they are getting advantage of it. Similarly, we have Bsc Hospitality Management. It is being run by again the Medhavi Skill University in collaboration with IHG Hotels and Resorts. Okay, so it's again a 3 years program where the student will be getting admitted into Medhavi Skill University, and they will be working with these IHG hotels. So the complete 3 years they will be working, and these are the hierarchical structure, how they can start and then they can move up the ladder, right? And yeah, this is an example of Bsc Mechatronics. So this is being run by Team Skill University, Bsc Mechatronics in electronics, in automotive, in retail, and then BBA in logistics. So these are all programs where there will be industry and the university collaboration, and it's a beneficial thing for both the student as well as the employer. So some of the contacts are mentioned here. And anyway, after this session is over, I will be sharing this presentation to all of you. You can look at it. If any of you want to start this apprenticeship embedded degree programs, you can reach out to these people. They can guide you, they can support you, right? And we will come to this Q&A part. So there are several very interesting questions being raised by different participants. So let me see if I can put it here. So the first question is, apprentice eligible for skilled category salary? There are many business like footwear, sole preparation factory, spinning factory, etc. So please explain, can we deduct ESI for these apprentices? So may I request either Jan or Girish to answer this, please?
Yeah, coming back in. Unless you want to go, Girish.
After you, Jan.
Okay, so anyways, this is I think this is a good point to explain that apprenticeship may not be the right thing for all sorts of job roles and work kind of situation. Apprenticeship is to skilled workers, but if you have unskilled workers, if there is a need for unskilled workers, then apprenticeship may not be the right thing there. That's I think that is one part of the question. The other part of the question has to do with ESIC.
Yeah.
ESIC is not required. Maybe it's not even intended for apprenticeship, but it is possible that employers can do it voluntarily.
Correct. That's what they are trying to ask, Jan.
Yeah.
So even the law doesn't mandate the employers to deduct the ESI. But if any employer wants to do voluntarily, so is it that they have to do for both? I mean, for employer part and employee part, both they can do? Or
I think that needs to be then agreed between in the apprenticeship contract between the employer and the apprentice.
Okay.
There is no general regulation for this. Obviously, the employer is free to give any kinds of benefits above and beyond the minimum stipend that is required.
Okay.
But if it is agreed that the employee's contribution, which is only a small part anyway, is to be paid from the stipend, I think that's fair and can be agreed on. It has to be a clause in the apprentice contract. One thing, however, I would not do in this case is to take this out of the minimum prescribed stipend. I think this would require a stipend that is higher by a marginal amount than the minimum.
Correct.
A little tricky, but that's because the law isn't quite clear. The ESIC law has one thing and the apprentices law has another thing, and the ministries need to sort that out sometime in the future.
I think
Girish is raising his hand, so let him come in.
On that ESIC, I wanted to kind of provide a solution to the companies who want to pay that, is that the law says that, say for example, for the discussion I am saying this, minimum 5,000 rupees as a stipend to be paid to the candidate. Okay, if in such case you are paying 5,000 as a minimum stipend, and in such case you want to give the ESIC benefit also, then both the employer's contribution and employee's contribution should be on top of it. After deducting employee's contribution also, the minimum take home that the candidate should get in hand should be 5,000 rupees, which is legally mandated. If you can take care of this, that is one thing. And secondly, what happens is, once a candidate is a candidate or a person becomes starts availing ESIC benefit, he's registered with ESIC, he cannot be deregistered. And if he takes another job in another organization, his ESIC number and all has to be recorded, and he should be notified to the next organization that this gentleman had ESIC benefit already. So, that continuity of ESIC benefit in wherever he goes as part of his career, that should be traceable. So, and that would become a responsibility of the organization. So, Hence, the organization should make a choice.
Yeah, thank you, Girish and Jan. So on that question of contract generation, like if there is a modification can be done. So I think because the contract is generated online, so no amendments can be done in that contract. So I think it's a facility that employer can give over and above the minimum stipend. I think that should be that's the bottom line, right? So
Yep.
employer is free to give any incentive, any benefit they want to give to their apprentices on top of the minimum stipend. So I think
Yep.
law should not be stopping that, right?
No,
Yeah,
that's
great.
totally voluntary because
Yeah.
it is a contract that is regulated, of course, the apprentices contract, but anything that goes above and beyond what is required by the law is possible, and employers actually do this to attract the best of apprentices, the best of candidates.
Correct.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah. So next question. Yeah.
CSR was mentioned in one of the other questions. Just want to take the opportunity to say that that any benefits that are given that go above and beyond the bare minimum can be counted towards CSR.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Chris, shall we go in order? I think this is a question about, can we deduct the professional tax of apprentices?
No. Because see, they are not employees, they are the trainees.
Yeah.
So you are, hence I would, so far this question has not arisen. This is the first time I'm seeing this question for deduction of professional tax. My recommendation is, please don't do that.
No, not necessary, because stipend is a compensation for the learning, is not a salary, is not wages. Yep. So therefore it is not taxable under income tax, and also then no professional tax needs to be deducted.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think next question, Girish, maybe you can take it regarding this is CSR. So if the employer is paying more stipend as discussed in the Act, okay, and even also they are paying some overtime kind of thing, can they consider them under CSR if they are meeting the minimum 2.5%?
See, it is very clear from the government's notification that any number of apprentices being engaged in an organization above the minimum threshold of 2.5%, the entire cost can be of engaging them, the payment that you pay and things like that, all that can be expensed out of CSR funds. Just hold your breath there. That being said, for the government's calculation, what they would consider, see, your pockets may be very deep. Let us think a little bit more logically. An organization's pockets could be very deep, and that is the reason they are paying more than the minimum stipend that is stipulated. If somebody is contemplating, say for example, for this discussion, allow me 1 minute. If somebody is paying 18,000 rupees, whereas minimum stipulated is 9,000. I think the question that is being asked is additional 9,000 that is being paid, whether that can be expensed out of CSR. Answer is no.
Okay.
Because even after 2.5% also, whatever additional apprentices you are engaging, for them also the CSR compensation could be only to the tune of 9,000 rupees. If that is the minimum stipulated stipend, only that can be expensed out of CSR funds. If you are paying overtime and if you are paying additional salary, bonus and all that stuff, that definitely cannot be expensed out of CSR funds. Hope you got it.
Yeah, Girish, but is that clearly mentioned in any of these guidelines and all? Because
in the guideline, it assumes that the minimum stipend only would be paid, and hence such kind of clarity may not be there. But this is left to anybody's interpretation, boss. Logically, if you think about it, otherwise, organization can start paying. It leads to malpractices, right?
Okay.
So that would not be, I mean, for all CSR calculations, it would be the minimum, anything above 2.5%, minimum stipulated amount of stipend would be considered, can be expensed out of CSR funds.
I think that need to be clearly mentioned somewhere. That's what our participants are saying, because that has to be clear.
What we can do is we can, it is there on the MAPS portal, it is there, the document, let them download it and come up with a question, and which can be directed to the right people in the either SDC or the ministry.
Sure. Okay. Okay, so next question is about there must be mapping of the concerned establishment in the portal of apprentices as a center for conducting the examination. What is the procedure for that?
What is that? I missed that. What is that? What's the question?
You're able to see my screen, right? So they're saying that some mapping has to be done between the establishment and the corresponding apprentices. And the question is how this examination can be conducted.
Sorry, but I don't get the question. Maybe Neeraj understands better.
I didn't get the question either.
Okay, maybe I will check with the participants and will come back. Okay, the next question is there any compliance protocol to engage apprentice in each year? I think yes, it has to be done every year. And is this act applicable for IT/ITS companies? Yes, it is applicable. Is any compensation act applicable on the engaged apprentices as to meet out any liability of the employer since they are not covered under ESI? Is this question clear, Girish or Jan? Any compensation act, is it applicable on these apprentices?
Compensation Act is not applicable.
It is not. No. Apprenticeship, the legal principle to see here is apprenticeship is not employment.
Okay. It is said that the claim will be online from April 2022, but how could payment can be done in case the apprenticeship gateway is not working? So the online portal, if it is not working for the payment process, then how that will be done?
2000. There seems to be an individual case, and I think this should be referred to NSDC apprentices team.
Okay, so dear participants,
but they have to look into it and raise a ticket if something is not working.
Yeah. So dear participants, so the questions that we are not able to clarify at this point of time, we will take it up with the respective team, NSDC and all, and we will get back to a FAQ kind of thing. So not to worry about this. Okay, so we are into textiles. We are hiring BSc textiles, CDF, etc. Where we will enroll them, NATS or NAPS?
that was very clear. Whatever scheme suits your business.
Yeah.
If you are engaging engineers, if you are engaging non-engineers, if you are engaging diplomas, BAs, BScs, BComs, and the duration of apprenticeship, what you want to have, it is 6 months, 9 months, whatever. So you have to make a business mapping and your requirement, and accordingly you can choose. No issues there.
But there is a rule. There's of course a rule of thumb, which is that NAPS is better for the total freshers, whereas NAPS is better for the graduate apprentices.
Graduate and diploma holders. Yeah.
But you have to know that under NATS there will be no final certification, no apprenticeship qualification. It is more like a post-university kind of internship to ease the transition from school to permanent employment.
And do these apprentice counts while submitting any return to the government body? So their count will be considered for any return that my company might be submitting to any government bodies.
See, because you are all on the portal that is visible to the government live. So what is that? I mean, there is no paper filing, return filing, anything that is required because it's all done on the portal. Correct me, Jan, if I'm wrong.
That is true. If tax returns is what is referred to here, of course, this is cost to the respective industry. It reduces profit and therefore also the tax load.
Okay. The next question is about how to compensate the extra working of the apprentice in terms of stipend.
Extra working of the apprentice.
Which,
see, with the proper, go ahead, I think you are saying something.
No, I was just want to make sure that this refers to overtime, which needs to be compensated. And if it is If it is a minor, there's overtime will not be allowed. So the calculation of the overtime compensation would presumably have to work like you take the monthly stipend and divert it by the number of hours worked, and then you have the hourly rate.
Yeah, I think Girish and Jan, I think majority of the concern or question that are coming up from our employer participants here is that one is that clarity about that more than 2.5%. So for example, if a company is paying, let's say 20,000 at stipend to the apprentices, right? So, and suppose they are engaging 5% of their headcount as apprentices. So this 2.5% of apprentices, if they are paying at the rate of 20,000 per month to each of the apprentices, is all these costs going to be considered under CSR? I think that's a clarity we need to get in black and white. That's because almost everyone is asking that question, and that also covers the overtime. That also covers the any other incentive that they are paying to the apprentices. That can be for some motivational kind of thing, or some companies might be also offering some travel allowance or medical allowances, something like that. So those additional things, whatever the company is offering, so how that will be calculated under CSR, I think that's a clarity we need to give maybe later on. That's what I feel.
See, as far as I am concerned, I am very clear that any cost above 2.5% you incur, as long as it is not above the minimum stipulated stipend, it cannot, only the minimum stipulated stipend can be expensed out of CSR. Anything above that cannot be. I'm very clear as far as CSR is concerned. And second thing is that about this additional, like, if an apprentice need to travel on for some purpose to learn something and he accompany the trainer or so on and so forth, that travel cost can be definitely reimbursed to him against the actuals, right? Following the standard process, what all organizations follow, even for their regular employees. And for apprentices, as a regular norm, it cannot be that overtime is can be made compulsory to apprentices. No, well, legally that is not permissible. But however, for some learning reasons, training reasons, if the candidate has to work extra hours, and if the organization is more generous enough to compensate for the extra hours of learning, that can be done as an additional payment, and that facility is there in the apprenticeship portal itself. So again, we should be thinking that apprentices are trainees; they are not employees. That has to be very, very clearly understood. If you are trying to engage apprentices as cheap labor, sorry for that word, then I think your thought process is misplaced.
Okay.
Yep, that needed to be said, and thank you for it, Girish.
Yeah, generally in the industry, in the business scenario, that happens.
Yeah. So, there is a business case, but it doesn't go to replacement of unskilled or cheap labor through apprentices. It's not. This is not the idea of NAPS. It's not the idea of the Apprentices Act. It's not the idea of apprenticeship at all. That needs to be underlined. Apprenticeship is for learning and not for working.
Okay.
Satya.
And there is, I think there are.
But having said that, obviously, as soon as the apprentice has been in the firm for a while and having already begun to learn the trade, there will be a return on the investment to the employer, because that apprentice is going to be productive after, depending on the complexity, of course, of the work, but after a relatively short time.
Yeah, Jan. And there are some practical challenges one of the participants shared. So that is about, when somebody need to register in the apprentice portal, and they need to have some email ID, right? And I think there will be still a number of students who will not have the latest mobile phones, screen phone and all, where they might not have the Gmails and all. So it becomes difficult to reach out to them. That's a practical challenge one of the participants has shared. Is there any alternate to that, or can you suggest some alternate to that? Because everybody may not have Gmails or emails, right? Mobile numbers, yes, but emails may not be having by everyone, right? So is there any alternate that can be recommended? That's a very good practical observation, Mr. Neeraj from this participant has shared. Jan, can you think of some alternate?
I have no suggestion, except what I can say is that the youth is making the transition from school to work. They need to be employable. And I don't think that it is unseemingly to ask them to have an email address of their own. We did mention that there is services that are coming, support services that are coming from a third-party aggregator. And many, if not most of these, one of the first things that they would do is when they facilitate the registration of the candidates on the portal, is that they provide them also with an email address. Yeah, that's part of the package.
Yeah, so.
But again, I don't think, maybe I'm of an older generation here, and I'm also more of an email person than a mobile phone person. But asking someone to have an email address in the 21st century is not something that should be impossible.
Okay.
And we need to have the telephone number, and we need to have the email address to have positive, clear identification of that person on the portal.
Yeah, that's where the challenge that is, because people might still have phones, mobile numbers, they might still have.
You might still have phones, mobile numbers, but when people have like the same name, which happens all the time, then you need to have a criteria to be able to distinguish one person from another, and the email is part of it.
Yeah.
It is like the same thing, right? If you're employing somebody to pay him monthly salary, that the person needs to have a bank account. If somebody says that
same thing, yes, yeah.
If somebody says I don't have a bank account, then he better opens a bank account.
Okay. So
and for NAPS, a bank account is a requisite.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And the next question is about, okay, it's not a question, basically they want to know. So they are into a hazardous industry. So how they can initiate the engagement of apprentices?
See, you should get into connected with the appropriate sector skill council. And once you log into the NAPS portal, even in the home page itself, you get a list of all the sector skill councils, their contact details. Depending on which industry you are into, you need to get in touch with them. They would be definitely able to guide you through that.
Yeah. So dear participants, I think you can see the screen here. So we have some contacts where you can, though we have mentioned some of the third-party aggregators here who are primarily part of the working group, but you can find all the TPS spreading across India in this link. And similarly, we have some government support available here. You can see any questions or clarity required for the process or any challenges you can always raise here. Okay, and then even if you find some difficulty with working with some TPS and all, you can raise the concerns to in these email IDs. And then we have sector skill councils from ITITS, Mr. Girish Kulkarni. From healthcare, we have Ms. Angshu Verma, and from pharma, Mr. Anshul Saxena. And the list of all the sector skills council is available here in this path. You can always, suppose you are part of, let's say, hospitality or hotel or any skilled council, please go and look at this link and find who are the contacts there, and you can talk to them. They will definitely help you out, how to initiate the apprenticeship process. And I will be sharing this presentation to all of you, right? And if still there is some clarity required, please let me know. I will be also able to, clarify with support from our participants here, Mr. Jan, Girish, and all other members, right? And any unanswered questions, we will be sharing as a FAQ later on. Okay?
Yeah. The only thing I would add is any tax-related question should perhaps be addressed to the company's own accountant, because we are all sorts of things, but we're not tax advisors.
Yeah. So I think with this, if there is no other questions,
Good
Yeah,
questions,
so
though.
yeah, Jan, a very good recommendation. So we are talking about this mobile number and email ID, right? Just to identify. So we have Aadhaar, right? So Aadhaar can be a distinguished identification for the every associate. So I think email ID may not be a mandatory thing, because that's a practical thing some of the people are saying. So we need to relook at, I believe, because Aadhaar is unique, right? Aadhaar cannot be duplicated at any cost.
Yeah.
So maybe Aadhaar can be a mandatory thing, and other than this, email ID to reach out to candidates and all, probably we need to relook at, and we can recommend to ministries, right?
See, the contracts and the registrations are linked already, so that's already done. But just consider what needs to be done if a contract needs to be sent to the particular person. Then you got to have sending a document. Then email is necessary.
Yeah. So yeah. So with this, 1 minute. One thing is. Okay, another, it's a legal question again. It has been very difficult to employ apprentices. Location is far for apprentices to commute to workplace. Can we put forms so that apprentices cannot leave without notice to employ? So I think they are requesting for some legal mandate that people should not leave the company without communicating, without a notice.
No, that is not possible. Apprentices, since they are trainees, they are not employees, they can leave at any point of time. And we have seen cases that there are people absconding even after the second day or within 1 month or 15 days, because so law doesn't allow this.
Yeah, but Girish, I think that's again from an employer perspective, which is a very practical concern and constraint. Even today, I meet one of the employer here. So they are also saying, even though they are engaging a quite good number of around more than 1,800 apprentices in their organization, but the challenge they are facing is, I mean, around 20-30% of people will be dropping in another second month or third month or something like that, and without any notice. So that's becoming a challenge for them to maintain, because they will be spending time in the training, right? The cost goes for the training and the trainer, the time and all. And by the time they will become productive, they will be leaving, right? So this is a practical concern. Some of the organizations are actually indicating during different interactions.
True, this is true in apprentice case also. This is true in fresher case, even otherwise employees case also, because currently in the job market, particularly in IT, ITS, I can say that attrition is almost at 20 plus percentage, right? So attrition is there. And you see, from that perspective, I would say that if the organization is credible enough and the brand value and the opportunity what these apprentices would get after completing the apprenticeship, if that is more aspirational and more needed, then I think there would be less attrition. I would rather request the organization to think innovatively of some retention programs and policies and things like that, so that apprentices think that staying that way with the company becomes more beneficial for them in their future life. But attrition is an issue which it is a global issue everywhere. So I think we have to deal with it in an innovative way on a case-to-case basis.
Yeah, I think if I again talk from an employer perspective, probably the retention programs that normally organizations plan for their regular employees, so similar some kind of thing, I think they can definitely do.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the next question is, so in case any apprentice put some damages to the establishment property, maybe some machines or let's say laptop or any things, so can the organization recover those, the value of that particular damaged item? Is there any legality and anything involved?
There is no legality as such. Common normal justice should prevail. How they treat their regular employees also. We have seen this, Satya, working in the same organization. If somebody loses his laptop during a travel, what anybody can do about it? So something is stolen or broken. So it is because in this scenario, an apprentice being a single person or an entity is much less resourceful than the organization, right? So they have to treat this as as they treat their regular employees. So, and Jan, anything you want to add to that?
Oh, and again, it would be this case like this would have to be judged on its individual circumstances and merits. There's a duty of care on both sides to act responsible. That should be asked, but a 17-year-old is not the same as not to be treated the same as an experienced worker with 20, 30 years of experience.
Okay. Another interesting question is, I think some of the participants are also saying the reimbursement to the establishment is very difficult. Any solution for that?
I think we are digressing into operational issues here. Okay. I understand that. And if the purpose here is to discuss and detail out and find solution to the operational issues, then of course we need to take extra time, maybe sometime later.
Okay. So
but as of now, I must say, particularly under NATS, I'm not seeing any delay at all as long as all documentation and the process is met. In fact, I have our SLA in IT/ITES Sector Skill Council. SLA is that just today, Satya, we've received about 95 new claims, and our service level agreement is that 95 new claims would be cleared within this weekend, before this weekend, that is next Friday, right? So that is the kind of thing that is happening, and there are no delays, at least as far as I know from the NAPS side.
Okay. I think what we can do is I request all the participants, maybe they can drop the questions to my email ID. You have got all my email ID. So any open questions we will answer through a FAQ, maybe in another 2-3 days, next week sometime, we will definitely do it. So please, whatever, even your operational issues, I understand that these are operational challenges and definitely that need to be addressed or at least, clarified. And we are here to help out by finding clarity from the respective departments. So please put forward your questions to me. I will consolidate and I will take answers from the required. We have NSDC and we have Ministry of Education and all. We have Girish, Jan, and several members. So that part I can definitely support all of you to get clarified. Yeah. So with this, I think today we will stop the session here. And I am really thankful to Jan, Girish, and all other participants who joined, who have taken all of us through these details of the apprenticeship things, what are the benefits, challenges, right? And the participants can go through the contact details if they want to take some support. It is available for TPAs, it is available for government support, it is available for Sector Skill Council. So all kind of details are mentioned in this presentation, right? So my only request is, if some of the participants have already engaging apprentices, please increase your numbers. Please try to reach out to 15% of the headcount that is stipulated by the guideline. And if you have not yet started, please do reach out to the respective contact points to get clarity, and please start engaging apprentices. So in this way, I think you can all help contributing in this, knowledge building, skill building, and all for the whole country. So with that, I thank you very much for being part of this session. And I also request, please share with your peer companies, your peer groups, the message about this apprenticeship, right? And bring forward their questions also. If they are finding some difficulties in operational challenges, please put it forward. So we will try to see how much we can resolve.